Hello traders, today is June the 27th. My name is Abel Hornsey. I'm a market analyst for YouTrading, and today I'll be taking a look at the week ahead. Okay, Monday morning, London session, we can see that bottom left-hand corner is turning more red. Australian dollar is the weakest currency at the moment. Top right-hand corner is turning green. Euro is currently the strongest, closely followed by the pound. So more of a risk-off start today. Looking at the active trader, we can see that last week's S&P 500, the big green weekly bullish candle closed near the highs, closed the previous sort of gap from the beginning of June, and then from like the start of today, we saw a slight move higher. So we have seen a higher high sort of print so far, but with the YouTrading.com Forex heat map showing that it's more of a risk off start, we could see the equities and commodities come a bit lower into the US start. Looking at the economic calendar, G7 meeting started yesterday, run through today and tomorrow. And we've also got quite a lot of central bankers speaking this week, so we might get some headline volatility. But the focus today will probably be around the core durable and durable goods orders from the US, looking likely that the core durable goods come in as expected, but as same as previous reading. Durable goods orders may surprise because the expectations are for this reading to be lower than the previous reading. So we're just waiting to see if we get a much worse than expected or a slightly better reading, which could possibly help the US dollar. Another data point that might help the US dollar is the pending home sales, looking likely to come in negative, but possibly not as negative as the previous reading. If we go back to last week, on Friday, we had a surprise to the upside. We had new home sales come in just under 700,000, where the reading had actually been expected to be 590K. So we had a big sort of push higher based on this sort of good home sales data. So be interesting to see whether or not today's data comes in better than expected, and maybe that helps the US dollar. Because if we look at the active trader platform at the US dollar index, US dollar has basically been going sideways since the 16th of June. We're trading within the sort of range from the high of 105 to the low of 103. Today started off slightly weaker, could possibly get a push higher on that US data, but until we get out of this range, it's hard to sort of say anything other than that we're consolidating. And the longer that we consolidate, the more violent, the larger the magnitude of the expansion will be, either to the upside or downside. So if we break out to the upside, then we take out these highs from 15th of June, which is around the FOMC rate hike. If we break lower than the 16th of June, then we're looking to see if we come back below the 101, maybe down to the 100 sort of level. Going back to the Forex calendar, looking through end of the month, we could get some end of month flows where we get a bit of rebalancing. Normally on the Friday, with the first Friday of the month, we have NFP, but you can see that that doesn't happen this week. That's going to occur next week. So if anyone is expecting to see NFP this week, unfortunately, you have to wait another week. Going back to Tuesday, we've got G7 meetings, like I said, ECB President Lagarde speaking. She's speaking quite a lot this week. That sort of culminates basically on Wednesday when we have ECB President Lagarde speaking, along with Bank of England Governor Bailey and Fed Chair Powell speaking. And they're all speaking at this, on this policy panel at the ECB Forum on Central Banking being held in Portugal. So looking to see if they give us an idea of their sort of coordinated efforts to control inflation and how they're all going to be doing that. So going back to Tuesday, a little bit of UK data, but mainly US data, running into this consumer confidence, which is like the focus for Tuesday. Expecting to see consumer confidence coming in lower than previous. Now, obviously, consumer confidence has been bad across the board. So no one's going to be expecting to see a better than this 100 figure. But if we do, again, that might be what helps the US dollar get out of that range. Going into Wednesday, we've already mentioned the sort of key focus for Wednesday, waiting for these central bankers to finish speaking. I'm not expecting anything to really happen during the morning. We do have OPEC meetings all day. Obviously, they conclude on Thursday, so possibly we get some headline risk in the oil markets. But other than that, waiting for essentially these central bankers to finish speaking before we can make a trade. that might actually be a good idea for the sort of start of the week. Maybe just wait until Wednesday afternoon, see what everyone's said, and then trade based on that. Thursday, we get to what I think is actually the market's focus. They want to see what's going to happen on this core PCE price index month over month. Obviously, if we just go to a sort of chart which shows the United States core PCE price index, the annual change, we can see that annually it was changing right up until February this year. And then we started to see a slowdown in that rise. The trend is still to the up, as you see by this trend line here. Obviously, if we were to get a weaker PCE data, that would be good for inflation. It would be good to see inflation rolling over. If we get a bigger number than 0.3%, and that would be a worry for the Fed. And again, we know that they look at the University of Michigan. We know that they look at the CPI, but the core PCE is basically the one that they really look at. If they see an acceleration in the core PCE, then we're probably more likely to get a 75 basis point rate hike. If we get a deceleration in the core PCE price, then possibly we drop down to a 50 basis point rate hike in July. And then come Friday, we've got some European flash CPI data that would maybe market moving. On this calendar, it says it's not going to be, but that's probably going to be a thing to watch out for at 10 o'clock on Friday. And then once we've got through that, we're looking here, we've got US ISM manufacturing PMIs. If we look to the Philly Fed versus the ISM manufacturing PMI, we can see that the Philly Fed went lower on the last reading. Looking to see if the US ISM sort of follows that. We are currently expecting the US ISM manufacturing PMI to come in above 50. So anything above 50 is still relatively positive for the markets. It is expansionary, but we're just waiting to see if the sort of trend in this ISM manufacturing PMI continues to sort of buck. It was coming lower basically from the end of 2021. Last month, we saw a slight tick up. So we're looking to see if June and July readings start to push up a little bit higher. Moving back to the active trader platform, looking at some key Forex crosses, we can see again, the euro versus US dollar is trading within the sort of 16th of June. It did slightly pop up on the 22nd of June, but then came back into that range. So I'm going to sort of disregard the 22nd of June's high. But for those that look at that to say, well, we did make a new higher high and we've got essentially a higher low. If we were to break it back above 1.06, then we're looking to see if we can get up to the 8th of June's low here around 1.067. And then we've got relatively equal highs around the 107 to 108. So possibly if we do get a lower US dollar index, that's helped by a push up in the euro versus US dollar, and depending on how far the euro versus US dollar can go, then potentially we come up to the 1.08 and we see the dollar index coming a lot lower. Looking at the pound versus the commodity pairs, so the pound versus the Australian dollar, pound versus the CAD, pound versus New Zealand dollar. Look at the Aussie and the CAD. It looks like retail traders are trying to go long the pound versus the CAD. So I am expecting to see the pound come lower at some point. So if you just look at the pound Aussie, start with, we have pushed back up to the 1.77, almost into the 1.775 on the daily chart, looking to see if we can break back above 1.78. I don't think we're actually going to do that. I do believe that we've come back into this range. And if we go down to an hourly chart, what I'm expecting is for this green candle here from the 24th of June to act as sort of supply, and then for this pound versus the Australian dollar to come a lot lower and try and stop out a lot of the retail sentiment that's looking to go long. Looking at the pound versus New Zealand dollar, there's only slightly more bullish than they are bearish. So pound versus New Zealand dollar may not move as fast as the pound Aussie, but at the same time, pound Aussie, if that comes lower, it's going to drag the pound New Zealand dollar lower with it. Pound versus the yen. Now, I am expecting to see the yen dropping off at some point, basically because of the dollar versus the yen. So if we get the dollar versus the yen going higher, I am expecting the pound versus the yen to go higher with it. So looking at the dollar versus the yen, you can see here we've sort of looking at the previous Monday's range. We're still within that. So today, we're going to form a new range, see which way the market sort of trades. If we can start making breaks above these like swing highs on the hourly chart, then I am looking for a push above last week's high, above the 136.7. And a lot of that may be pushed around by the euro versus the yen. the euro versus the yen. A lot of the traders on this retail platform are trying to go short, 79% versus 21% bullish. So I am expecting to see the shorts get stopped out, basically with a push up higher than the 144.2, maybe into the 144.5. On the UK 100, obviously in the London session, we started slightly lower today. Looking to the left, we've got this swing high from the 16th of June. So similar to the US dollar index, obviously the 16th of June is quite key. If we were to break above that swing high, then I do believe that opens up a sort of imbalance here all the way up towards 7,550. However, I am today expecting to see a bit of a pullback into the sort of 7,120 sort of level where we broke out after the 22nd of June's high. You can see on the 24th of June, we had this big push up. So I am expecting to sort of see this backfill, depending on the sentiment and obviously what happens in the economic calendar. Maybe we sort of hold around 7,120 or possibly, come a bit lower. Or if we do see that, like I said, a break above 7,335, then I'm looking for a lot larger move up towards 7,600. German DAX, similar sort of story. There's a big impulsive move to the upside to be had if we can start taking out some of these swing highs from the 21st of June and the 16th of June. And if we look at the NASDAQ, looking to the left, we've pushed up almost into this little balance area here from the 10th of June. Obviously, if we get back above 12,340, then that opens all the way up to 12,600. And then, maybe momentum after last week, if we get a good strong start to this week, maybe that takes us back above 12,950 into the 13,000s and possibly start looking for any sort of retail stops that are being sort of sat there for a while above these sort of April highs, potentially above the May high. Now, Brent, 88% of traders on this platform are trying to go long. We have seen a decline since the sort of 9th of June into this trend line, which it starts from the sort of middle of March. You can see it's been tested several times now. I did say I was looking for a backfill up to around 111.5. If we get that today or like before OPEC, maybe if OPEC decide that they are going to sort of help the world out with a bit more supply, then potentially we get a drop down from just underneath $112 per barrel. And finally, gold, 1,800 is obviously the sort of key level. We haven't been able to break through that since we got down to it in 16th of May. Most of May has basically been above that and below 1880. So I'm just expecting to see gold go sideways whilst dollar goes sideways. And then once we know which way gold's going, that's the sort of when basically waiting for the gold to go opposite to the dollar index. That's what I'm looking for this week. Waiting for Wednesday's sort of pivot after the central bankers speak, and then waiting to see what happens in the US inflation, and then bookending with US ISM manufacturing PMIs. All right, good luck this week. I'll speak to you again tomorrow.